Can you tell us, why is it important to include a visit with the Pope during your visit to Europe to talk about climate change?
Well, the Pope is one of the great voices of reason and compelling moral authority on the subject of the climate crisis. He's been ahead of the curve. He's been a leader. His encyclical Laudato Si is really a very, very powerful document, eloquent and morally very persuasive. And I think that his voice will be a very important voice leading up to and through the Glasgow conference.
These have one mind, and shall give their power and strength unto the beast. And I saw one of his heads as it were wounded to death, and his deadly wound was healed, and all the world wondered after the beast. And there shall be signs in the sun, and in the moon, and in the stars, and upon the earth, distress of nations with perplexity, the sea and the waves roaring, men's hearts failing them for fear, and for looking after those things which are coming on the earth, for the powers of heaven shall be shaken. All these are the beginning of sorrows.
Fight the climate crisis.
We must have ambition,
not just from one country or one industry
or one person.
It must come from all of us.
And the time is now.
The time is now.
The time is now.
We simply cannot
afford to wait any longer. We are working together
with the people
and communities
that are daring
to build a better future.
This is ambition from the ground. Join us.
Join us. Join us.
Join us to act on climate.
The future I'd like to see is a future where everybody works together.
In Glasgow, we are looking for action.
We have been presented with two options, and we need to choose.
There could not be a more important moment that we should have international agreements. The epidemic has shown us how crucial it is to find agreement among nations if we are to solve such worldwide problems. But the problems that await us within the next 5 to 10 years are even greater. It is crucial that these meetings in Glasgow, COP26, have success, and that at last the nations will come together to solve the crippling problems that the world, the globe, now faces.
Well, Christian, Glasgow absolutely has to be the moment that the world comes together and agrees on commitments that limit the worst impacts of climate change. This has to be the moment that we do it.
And Glasgow is a critical moment for all of us, not for America, not for UK or France, but for the world. We have to come together to make good on the promises that were made in Paris. Right now, we're not. This must be the decade of decision and the decade of action, and every country is required to step up.
This will be the decade in which we either rise up and tackle climate change together, or else we sink together into the mire. And this year at COP26 will be the moment at which the world chooses which of those two fates awaits us. The stakes but while are too high for COP26 to become some kind of last-minute dash to the line. If we do the hard miles now, I hope that in November we can meet in person in Glasgow to hammer out the final details of what must be an era-defining outcome for our planet and for future generations.
We are serious about 1.5 degrees. Glasgow must be the COP that consigns coal power to history, the COP that signals the end of polluting vehicles, the COP that tackles methane emissions, and that calls time on deforestation by making sustainable production pay.
This is the moment. Glasgow is the last best opportunity that we have, that best hope, that the world will come together and build on Paris. Paris does not alone get the job done. If all of us did what's in Paris, we still see a warming of maybe 3.7 degrees or more. And we're not doing all that we set out to do in Paris. So this is the moment for countries, common sense, governments, people to come together and get the job done.
L'accord de Paris pour le climat est accepté.
The gavel that came down at the 21st UN Climate Summit wasn't the first, but Jennifer Morgan of World Resources Institute says this time it was different.
For the first time, countries have unified together, developed and developing countries, in a turning point, I think, that can really make a difference in the climate crisis.
In 2015, the world came together in Paris to make a promise for a better, greener, and more inclusive future. Nearly 200 countries set the world on a course towards sustainable development. COVID-19 has put a spotlight on nature's ability to bounce back, given the chance. The pandemic demonstrates how our actions affect nature and how effective the world can be when mobilized against a common crisis. We must seize this opportunity to recover better together. Let us celebrate the wins we have achieved, and let us be bold enough to create a better future for our planet and all those living on it.
But Paris was easy compared to what we have to do in Glasgow. Because in Paris, every nation wrote their own plan, basically according to what they were willing to do. And Glasgow, I think, and I've said this many times, is without exaggeration, really the last best hope we have to be able to pull ourselves together. Seeing all of that, we have to go to Glasgow and we have to write the plans that we have to write.
Since the signing of the Paris Accords in 2015, leaders of all nations and all walks of life have pledged themselves in the fight against climate change. The Bible tells us that the time will come when the nations of the world will unite as one in opposition to the God of heaven and earth. For they have consulted together with one consent, they are confederate against thee. But what will be the result of this confederacy? These have one mind and shall give their power and strength unto the beast. These shall make war with the Lamb. The Bible here forewarns us that once the nations unite, they will give their power and strength unto the beast. In uniting with the Pope of Rome, referred to as a beast of Revelation, the world will then lend their strength to the Roman Catholic power, thus healing her deadly wound and paving the way for her ascension to world dominance. Once the papacy regains her lost supremacy, how few are aware that they are plunging the world into the Roman horrors of the Dark Ages. J.A. Wiley said it best, the noon of the papacy was a midnight of the world.
Esta pandemia nos ha demostrado qué ocurre cuando el mundo se para, hace una pausa, aunque sea de unos pocos meses, y el impacto que esto tiene en la naturaleza y el cambio climático de una manera tristemente positiva, ¿no? Es decir, hace daño. Y esto nos demuestra que la naturaleza global necesita de nuestras vidas en este
I
planeta.
know that the Holy Father himself sees climate action as one of the key issues that we need to work on together. If we look around the world, we've got 1.3 billion people of Catholic faith. That is a lot of people who can help not only change the way that they conduct themselves, but also influence others.
That's why he has been collaborating closely with Vatican officials to ensure that climate action is a priority in every person's life. And Mr. Sharma explains that with so many people of faith in the world, religious leaders have an important role to play in guiding people to take the right action when it comes to tackling climate change.
The contribution that we hope that religious leaders will make through the conference on the 4th of October and in the coming months will be to raise the ambitions of our political leaders and our statesmen and women to be able to grasp the nettle, to see the issues and to make courageous decisions.
Nearly 40 leaders from the world's major religions and 10 leading scientists have been invited to participate. They will play a key role in encouraging diverse groups of people to care for the planet through their actions.
The vast majority of the world's population have a religious belief. So clearly, mobilising faith communities is really important in the fight against climate change.
Okay, so in October we're inviting nearly 40 faith leaders and 10 scientists to the Vatican to talk about climate change. And this is in advance of COP26, the Climate Change Summit, that will take place in Glasgow in November of this year. So we have partnered up with the Italian Embassy to the Holy See, who are our co-hosts for COP26, and also with the Vatican itself to run this initiative. And we're hoping that the faith leaders will come and they will give a message of encouragement and they will ask political leaders at COP26 to show ambition in tackling climate change.
You're on a very important mission here to Europe. Can you tell us why is it important to include a visit with the Pope during your visit to Europe to talk about climate change?
Well, the Pope is one of the great voices of reason and compelling moral authority on the subject of the climate crisis. He's been ahead of the curve. He's been a leader. His encyclical Laudato Si is really a very, very powerful document, eloquent and morally very persuasive.
John Kerry has been meeting with government officials and business leaders ahead of the United Nations Climate Change Conference due to take place in Glasgow later this year. The former US Secretary of State spoke to Vatican media after his meeting with the Pope, and when asked why he came to visit Pope Francis, he said that he believed when it came to the climate crisis, Pope Francis is one of the great voices on the subject. He also talked about Pope Francis's encyclical Laudato Si, saying that it was, quote, a very, very powerful document, eloquent and morally very persuasive.
Well, the Holy Father is one, if not one of the most powerful voices on the planet. And he's been extraordinary in the eloquence of his call on people to step up and be reasonable and to live out our responsibility as human beings in caring for God's creation. But because he is above politics and outside of the hurly-burly of day-to-day national conflict, etc., I think he can sort of, shake people a little bit and bring them to the table with a better sense of our common obligation.
So for the last 6 months, we've been running virtual preparatory meetings for the event in October. And we've been hearing from the faith leaders and the scientists their views on the environment. What has been really striking has been how much they agree. So the scientists bring the data on climate change, but the faith leaders really agree with them. They say that, that nature is sacred and that it is our duty to protect the environment.
I think His Holiness speaks with a moral authority that is quite separate. It's unique, and we need all the power we can bring to the table. And I think that his voice will be a very important voice leading up to and through the Glasgow conference, which I believe he intends to, hopefully intends to attend.
So the two things together, I mean, this is their words, not mine, but they've talked about the facts that science bring, partnering with the passion and the motivational qualities of faith leaders. And we think that these two things together can really make an impact. I mean, as you know, about 84% of the world's population are affiliated to a faith. So if faith leaders motivate their followers to take action on climate change and to ask their governments to be more ambitious, this could really have a significant impact.
As the UK prepares to host the United Nations Climate Summit COP26, churches across the UK are getting ready to take action through Climate Sunday.
We're calling on churches all across the country to get involved in taking action for climate justice.
We're inviting you to speak up. The church can bring a distinctive voice to the call for climate justice, rooted in our faith in a just and generous God. Join with others in calling for our leaders to be courageous at COP26 and to take ambitious action for creation.
The Pope asked you to prepare the Commission COVID-19. He asked you to prepare the future, not prepare for the future. Can you explain to us what that means?
It's a system preparing the future, then it's preparing a system that fully integrates the human person, makes all systems very inclusive, characterized by solidarity, so that the human person is never treated as an afterthought or something that is left aside.
The crisis is showing us that we are one humanity. Every human being, every people, each culture is part of this one varied, rich, and interdependent humanity. It is showing us that overcoming a crisis like this one is possible when we become aware of the importance of looking after the common good and taking seriously our individual responsibility.
Yes. And it says to prepare for the future is to prepare for you. And so it is prepare for encounter, for dialogue, for people building, coming together to create a world system where the dignities of people are recognized, where everybody is inclusive because we are all interconnected, and where we fashion a culture of encounter to rehabilitate and establish the dignities and the worth of every person.
That this is not also an accident. It's not an accident, the COVID-19. It's the fruit of a way of how human beings has understand and have made their own relationship. And it's a confirmation of our mission to collaborate, to contribute in the change of this world.
The Jesuit Superior General has just confirmed that our current crisis is, and I quote, a confirmation of our mission to collaborate, to contribute in the change of this world, end quote. Under the guise of combating the climate crisis and subsequent pandemic, the Pope is far-reaching and is gathering the entire world under his authority. Once the Pope is able to bear sway over the world, he will lead the nations into false worship through the implementation of Sunday sacredness by law, which is the mark of the beast.
So the church claims that humans are responsible for looking after nature. This comes from Genesis, when at creation God charged Adam to till and to keep. This imperative for care also extends to the teaching about resting on the Sabbath day, which is for human beings also to preserve creation.
All this Bible prophecy has foretold is coming to pass just before the second coming of Jesus Christ. See Revelations 13 and 14. As we see these monumentous events unfolding before our very eyes, as we see the marshaling of nations, the increase in calamities, pestilences, and war, may we know that Christ's coming is even at the door. Lest coming suddenly he find you sleeping, what I say unto you, I say unto all, watch. For more information on the topics discussed in this video, please visit our website at www.prophesy.again.org.